Hey everyone, welcome back. So we have been writing our test automation framework from while we have written some test cases, handle some different scenario. And when we out test our application, so when we execute these automation suites. So once we execute these suites, we want to see the overall execution result so that we'll know what happened as an execution, like what happened to your test, whether your application is working as expected or not. So you just don't want to see the pass and fail. If you want to see that, you will have in your log itself that test case pass or failed. But you also need to know which and all tests it passed, where and all it passed, what is the line of code where it failed, if there is an error screenshot that is on the failure that we have captured. So we need all these details to go into the test script and look whether it's an application issue or it's a test script issue to define. And then once it is executed, you can share to the stakeholder or any responsible person so that they know that the application has been tested and this is the overall result. Now that is where report comes in the picture. There are different reports that WebdriverIO supports, and we are going to talk about currently Allure Report, which is very promising, which have very good features. That's what we're going to discuss and explore in the video. In official website, if we go to docs, then we have something called reporter section. Click on this, and then you'll see we have these many reporters supported by WebdriverIO. We have Allure, Concise, Dot Reporter, JUnit, Spec Reporter. Spec Reporter we have already been seeing because this will help you to just log the reporter in the console that we see, and we have already seen when we are executing our test, we see pass or fail, right? So that's what we have been using. But let's talk about Allure report. Now, this is how the sample report looks like, where you will have all the here test features or the test cases, and here you will have history, which environment, which browser you are using, and who is executed, who is the executor and all, and then different menu options. So let's just first try to set up this and see that how our report execution looks like, and then we'll gradually improve and we'll add more details in the report slowly. So if you read through this installation guide, first is to include this particular dependency in your package.json. Now, if we remember during the configuration of our first framework, we have selected a report as Allure. So when you select Allure, this dependency will be already downloaded. But just to cross check, let's go back to our framework, go to package.json. And if you look here in dependency section, dev dependency, you will see WDIO Allure Reporter is already part of the framework. So this is already added. And that is why whenever you execute a test, you will see automatically Allure result folder is created. And you will have some XML file. Now this is not very user friendly and not user readable. So we're going to build out of these XML files, we are going to build one human readable or user readable proper HTML based report. Before that, if you go to WDIO conf file, in the reporter section, you will have two reporter already, Spec and Allure, and the output directory is given Allure result, which is where it is getting generated, the report. Okay, this is a raw one. Now let's continue to read the documentation. So this is the installation command, but we already have. And then in the reporter section config file, you can give this. And then you can also add these things like disable WebdriverIO steps reporting, disable WebdriverIO screenshots reporting. Now let's add this as well. I think we don't need to add that, and we can add this disable WebdriverIO steps. We'll see this also later. Let's first follow the basic one, see whether it's generating, and then later we will go in detail. Right now, another thing is these are, again, we'll talk about these things also, but we need to make sure we are able to generate the report. So how we can generate the report? If you see, if you come here, displaying the report. So the result can be consumed by reporting tools offered by Allure. And then to generate that, we need to install the Allure command line tool. We need to have that command line tool to run the Allure related commands. So how you can install? You can click on this link and you can open in the new tab or in the same tab. This is the Allure command line tool. And this is the command to execute npm install Allure command line. So let me just go to our project root directory and run this command. Now this will install and add a package here, Allure command line. Now if you see here, this is the package has been added. right? Allure command. You might see we have few dependency and few dev dependency. So if you add in the installation command npm install package and then --save -dev, that saves in the dev dependency. If you don't give --save -dev, then it adds in the dependency. Okay, so we have added that. Now there is a command. This is the command to generate the report. So what happens, let's put this in the script section, because the script section is where it is easy to generate the lengthy, instead of running all these lengthy command, we can create some variable and assign it. So I'll say a report colon and paste whatever we have copied. So we have copied this, but we have to define this Allure directory folder. That means this Allure result folder we have, right? So let's define Allure-results. And let's remove the bracket. So this is there. Now we already have a base report. So either you can try executing your test case. So let's execute one sample test case, and then we will try to, see how our report looks like. So first I am going to delete this Allure results completely. And then I'll go to configuration file, and instead of running all tests, I'll tend to run only simple test case. Which one? Example E2E. Let me try to run this example E2E. So I'll just update the file path here, and let me run it. npm run, and the command should be test, I guess here, test. So if you run this now, it will run the test, and then it should generate a Allure result folder here. It's opening the website. So if I see my test case has passed, and even Allure result folder is created. Now we have added this command report. So let's see if it is generating report or not. So we have to run the command npm run and then report, this variable. Internally, when you say npm run report, it will come here and see this is the actual command. So this will execute. Now let's click enter and see whether it's opening or not. Now once you click on that, it will open the report in your default browser. My default browser is as of now Chrome, so it is opening in the Chrome. But if you have a different, it will open in the different. See here, we have overview, and we are seeing Allure report with a date. So today's date, when it started the execution, when it ended, what is the total time it took? 4 seconds, 122 millisecond. How many test cases? 1 test cases. Percentage of pass 100%, there was no failure. Then suites. Now here what we are saying, let's go back to the test that we have executed. So we have executed this E2E file, and this has one suite, the describe block. So if we have multiple describe block, it will come here. So if you're running multiple describe or multiple files, it will show all the files here. So this is your suite, and that's the same name, my login application. That's what shows here, right? There is no environment currently, no feature details, nothing to show as a history, no category, no executor. This all we will slowly see and we'll add. Now, if you want to see the test case detail, where we can see that. So if you click on it, right, my login application, it will take you to the suite. So currently we were in overview tab, but as soon as you click here, it will go to the suites tab. And then you should see the test should log in with a valid credential. And that is what we have seen here. Should log in with a valid credential. Once you click on it, right side, you will see detailed steps are there, post session URL. Now, these are nothing but WebDriver. When you run your test behind the scene, it makes some API like calls, okay? And those calls are attached in the report, which is not very user friendly. We don't want to see these details, okay? We don't want to see the request and all, and these details, how it is making calls and all, right? We just want to see whether the test is passed, and if any case of any failure, what is the failure. So what we can do now, let's follow this step here, which said, if we scroll up here, we need to update disable WebDriver steps reporting. Okay, so let me just include this in our execution. Sorry, in the configuration of report. So if I go to reporter section here, probably let me just click on the new line after curly bracket so that we can add more details here. Let me right click and format the document, and here comma, and then add this. Right, so I'm adding disable WebDriver steps. And instead of running one test, let me try to run, just copy 2 tests here. And it should log in with validation. Here I'll say, let me just add here test case like TC001. Okay, 1. Then probably I'll just add the test case number. And then we will see whether both of the tests are appearing in the report or not. So I'll just stop it. Here it opens in the server and port in the report. So once you open, right, and then only this reporter will load. If you stop this, right, this listening port server, then and if you reload this, the report will not work. So Allure report requires this any server and the port to open and then use that. So I've stopped it pressing Control-C in my keyboard, and now I'm trying to run my test again. But before running my test, I want to remove this report as well. Allure results I'm going to delete again. If you notice, this Allure report also was created as a folder when we generated a report, like based on from HTML. When we executed our command package.json here, this one, it created Allure report which is human readable based on your XML file. Now let's try to run our test again, and then we will see whether our WebDriver steps. And let me try to fail also one test case. Suppose I'm giving here just wrong user, and then another one test case will pass, another will fail, and let's see whether on the failure we are attaching a report also. Not a report, attaching a screenshot on the failure automatically or not. Let's try to run the test again. The second test going to be failed, so it's taking some time. If we come back here, 0 pass, that means in 0 in the sense overall this is the only one spec we have executed, right? So in that one means 0 has passed. But if you go in detail here, right, in report, one test has passed and another has failed, but overall spec has failed. It has given the reason also. But let's try to generate the report out of it and then see in the detail in the report. So the command is npm run report. Now you will see when I run this, you might get an error. What it says, because Allure report already exists from the previous execution, when I generated report, Allure report was created. It says target directory for the report is already in use. Use add -clean option to override. So that means when you already have a report, it's not able to override the existing based on this file. It's not able to override the report. So it is saying add this -clean so that it can override your previous report. So I'm going to add here -clean after Allure results, and then let me try to generate a report again. Now if you go to your browser, you will see that a report has generated. Now this time it's a 2 test case, okay, and the date is same again, 50% pass, 50% fail, because out of 2, 1 was pass, 1 was failed, and that's what you're seeing here, right? 1 is failed, 1 is pass. And if you click on again in detail, you will see that first test case was passed. Now this time there's no WebDriver related that API call details here. It's just plain and simple, and that's what we want. We don't want too much of informations which is not required for our like us or any stakeholders. Then the second one. So if you click on the failed here, right side, you will see what is the failure, right? And if you expand, like if you click on the failure, you will see here in the detail, example E2E line, line number 18 assertion has failed, and that is where it's saying this line your test has failed. Example in your spec, example E2E line number 18, and the character space is 40. So the line number 18, the test case has failed with this particular error. And if you scroll down here in the test body, if you see here something called screenshot, if you expand it, there is a screenshot automatically attached for your report whenever the test has failed. So there is no report or a screenshot for the past test case, but for the failed one, you have the error plus you have a screenshot. So that's the really cool feature of Allure report, which is integrated with WebdriverIO. You have get a lot of things, a lot of features, which is with minimum configurations that we are getting. And how this is capturing the screenshot, we have not written any code. So just to understand like how it is working, if you go to configuration file, and then there is something called hook section in this configuration. So here there's a hook section where you have on, prepare, before, after, which we will talk in detail later. But if you keep on scrolling, there is something called after test. So what happened after each test, after each block of Mocha or each test, if the test case is not passed, then there is a code called await browser take a screenshot, and it has been added. It was already added during the configuration. So we have to not write anything else. It automatically captures a screenshot and attach in the particular test wherever it is failed. And the screenshot will reside in the Allure result folder only in the random number, but this will be automatically attached to the exact test cases where it is failing when you're generating a report, right? So this is how your Allure report looks like, and we are going to talk in detail like different menu options, different like details where how we can add environment details in your report, how we can add more features, how we can have trend here, and then who is executing those test cases, extra logs if you want to like perform in your each and every steps, how you can include those in your test cases. That's what we are going to explore in the future videos. But that's all for now. Thank you so much.